This is a new episode, The Next Frontier. What lies beyond? In our previous episodes, we discussed this time in our history, 2,000 years from the time of Jesus, that technology has advanced to a level that has changed our world in ways that we have never had before, that created a network capability and a network effect that is way, way beyond anything that mankind has ever experienced before, as the world becomes increasingly global and potentially increasingly dangerous. But let's talk about the future. What lies beyond the cell phone, the computer, and the internet? When you think about how young these technologies are, we talked about before that it took over 100 years for the telephone to advance to a level in the 90s, and within a decade or two, cell phones surpassed telephones, and now far surpass telephones. And, well, these technologies are all in the infancy with the internet. What lies beyond the smartphone? First, it is important to understand what is at the heart of technology. When you look at your iPhone, which I don't have here, can't afford one, don't choose to afford one, have no real need for one, or don't choose to have a need for one. But when you look for your iPhone, perhaps you will get your new iPhone 5 that just came audible today. What's inside of that? What's of value? Well, as you can tell by Apple's profits and now being one of the most valuable companies in the world, a lot of it is profit, but what's really lying under there is two things: silicon and software, and a little metal. Okay, silicon and software. But the interesting thing is, when you consider those things, silicon is sand, and the cost of building a marginal chip almost approaches zero. So within that sand is also profit. Okay, and software is just code, and its marginal cost of production is almost free. And so when you look at the cost of technologies versus the price of technologies, you'll see there's a drastic gap. Now, today, America benefits greatly over the gap of that intellectual property. But what we must realize, if we're thinking in advance, which we hardly think to do, we just have a hard time thinking beyond a single election cycle. If we think farther into the future, into the coming years, we'll realize that it doesn't take long before the technologies of today become the commodities and well open and free to everybody in the future. And the edges of the American corporations and technology today will diminish over time. But that's not the point of this. But interestingly, these new technologies offer today already the ability to do very interesting things. When I was in 2005 working with an engineering guy on the notion of a public Wi-Fi people's network, owned and operated by the people, for the people, and of the people, and all that kind of thing, with profits to the people. That was our motto: profits to the people. Yes, profits to the people. Because when you get profits to the people, well, the rich get richer and the poor get richer, because they're all people. Anyway, today, with billions connected, we could literally hold a worldwide collection and overnight have a vault on your cell phone even. You could choose star for yes, bound for no, zero for abstain, or I don't have any freaking clue. You see, that's what my technology guy told me in 2005. Holy bleep, we could hold worldwide elections Now, I talked to you about different scenarios about going towards the future, but the notion of having worldwide selections with future forms, with biometric security that allow those elections to be far more secure than your ballot boxes today in the best of your nations, well, that's change. I don't know if we can believe in it, but we gotta recognize it. So, what we have to recognize is the power of these new technologies to change our world. And what do we do with them? And so, the question then becomes, what lies beyond? And my answer to that is, what lies beyond, and this is just a prototype, I call them the iPhones. Imagine iPhones in the eye, no longer smartphone. In your eye, a projection of computer information, and your computer programs look more and interact more like people, and you have access to all of the information available on the planet, and you have available education and knowledge and learning right into your iPhones. But let's take the hardware, guys. Let's get to the geeks of the hardware. Within these screens, they could go either completely translucent, overlaying information on top of your reality, including ads, which you can present and select by computer-programmed agents that choose what you view and what you don't, and whatever you have becomes secure and becomes delivered as you would want it. Although, if you play your Wild Wild West internet game, this is going to be a massive mind mess, because if you don't control what that could deliver to your mind, I don't know if you want to go in this space that, well, is your reality with information on top of it. But there's another space, what lies beyond Google Earth, a real-time virtual space of literally virtual FaceTimes, because within these iPhones are also cameras to collect real-time information around you and put them back into the cloud of the network, and we have earphones to collect the sound. So within this, well, you have a paradigm now where you are talking to your computer, and your commands may be gestures, and you might have virtual keyboards, but no need for mouses and mices and stuff, and well, we still have them in Disneyland and Disney World. But anyway, the point is, what is the point? Okay, so your iPhones are now capable of transporting you around the planet and transporting other people around the planet. And well, that could get really disturbing if people transported themselves in the billions to Cairo to protest. This has happened to be a time of protest over the Muslim film. We won't go through that, but this is September something 2012, shortly after 9/11 2012. But the point is this brave new world of technology will change things as we know them, but are we going to get ahead of that change or be controlled of that change? And how long will it take for us to realize these iPhones, the technology is almost within our grasp today, and based on current trends, I doubt you'll avoid having this technology in form within the next decade, and I doubt you will continue to use the same kind of flat screen interface that you're used to within the coming 2 decades. I think you'll see the future of computing morph in front of your eyes, in front of your iPhones actually. But okay, so the problem with a lot of this is we start to get in, we've already seen the technology, the patent wars. You've seen the battle in the billion dollar lawsuit award with Samsung and Apple. You've seen the patent wars, but see, those patent wars slow our progress, and they also slow our development of new standards. So what kind of standards will we have? Will we have just one Google Earth, or will we have a Microsoft Earth? And what happens when the bounds of these technologies start crossing the bounds of a society, start crossing the bounds between our economy and our enterprises and our banking? You see, there are more important things to change in this process than the underlying technology. It's the process of how we manage and govern ourselves. Will we continue to govern ourselves as this broken model? In America, it created a great model of free enterprise, but free enterprise is blocked from doing those things it can do, and public enterprise government does not know how to operate like free enterprise. But we can't allow enterprise to operate with a narrow, blind view of profits and of the economic consequences of their own actions and the poverty around the world. We must create a plan that recapitalizes the entire planet. That's right, a recapitalization plan for the entire planet. And that is where enterprise takes over government. The people buy out the enterprises, and then those enterprises become a part of our government. It doesn't mean we don't have competing enterprises, but the competitors are competing for ourselves, and we have a new ecosystem of enterprise with a new state, not states of governments, but nations that are actually enterprises. Like if you are a global company, imagine those nations or those trading blocks being like sales regions, and the politicians of those nations will be like the salesmen and marketing folks for the enterprise. And the primary goal of this new enterprise will be the fulfillment of the pyramid of human needs. And for those who think and are familiar with Maslow, think about the needs. At the bottom will be the need for sustenance, food. All right, we should guarantee all humans on Earth. And then the need for housing and security and safety. And ultimately, over time, we should extend some degree of healthcare to all of humans on Earth, and then work toward creating a society to allow and proliferate the higher order needs, the love needs, the self-esteem needs, and the self-actualization needs. Only when our society and our enterprise and our virtual iPhone heaven, that's right, because when you create a virtual replica of reality over your own space and time, and then capture that reality in your own space and time, what we're actually creating is the greatest movie of all time. It's the movie of the history of the future of Earth, because as soon as we start recording that reality on a global basis and feeding it back into cloud, we will have a record of our present and our history as we move forward, and we can create and recreate our history and build fantasy realities within our present and our future and our history. We can, within this heaven of mind, create an area for knowledge and art and learning beyond human comprehension. We can unleash the power of computing to compute beyond the power of the single, even a collective human mind. That computer can calculate to you and to me right today that we have the power to build an economy. We have the power right now to create 10% annual GDP global growth overnight. We have the power to grow and double our planet's economy within 2 decades easily, maybe 5 years, maybe less. Our power is as infinite as our ability to choose the will to use it. Do you have the will to power?